Welcome to Pimpy's Investment Chat, where we keep investment talk simple. And here's your host, Pimpy.
What is going on out there, peeps? So every day, more and more information is coming out about the FTX crypto exchange and Sam Bankman-Fried and his political connections and where exactly the money was going to. This is going to get ugly because this has political corruption written all over it. But it isn't just the Democrats. I'm talking about politicians. But mostly the Democrats are behind it. One part of this story is really sad. And it's going to fill in a lot of information that's been missing about a very famous football player and a recent divorce from his wife. So the fact that the Clintons were friendly with FTX should tell you everything you need to know about the criminality behind it. Before we get started, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I certainly do appreciate it. Right now, you definitely don't want to be in cryptos, and I'm going to explain more in detail here pretty soon. Right now, you should be thinking about buying gold and silver. And when you do, head on over to our friends at Money Metals Exchange. The link is down below in the description. If you're a first-time buyer and you spend more than $100, use promo code Pimpy, P-I-M-P-Y, and you will get an additional half ounce of silver. Oh, yeah. We're going to be reviewing a video here that goes into some really good details about all the inner workings of FTX, those involved. Tom Brady was so convinced and sold on FTX. Are you ready for this? He had put every single penny of his $650 million fortune into this company. And so you can understand why this man who was, retired, came out of retirement to play again, and why it is his wife left him. I'm sure she left him out of total disgust that this man took a gamble with his savings to invest in the company without doing the proper due diligence, looking into people behind it, how they got started, or any of that. And it could possibly be all gone, if not all gone, a major portion of it. So if I was his wife, I'd be disgusted too. How could you look this man in his face every single day, knowing that your entire life of luxury is now possibly gone? You can see right here all the different companies and people that were involved with Sam Bankman-Fried's investments. So you had FTX Ventures, FTX US, and Alameda Research Company. You can go through here and see all of the different cryptos and ledgers that were involved with this. And this is one of the biggest concerns I had about cryptocurrencies, how they are a house of cards, and it doesn't take very much for them to collapse because each one of these companies are invested into one another. I mean, just take a look at some of these companies here. Look at, we got the cryptos, Solana, Polygon. I mean, these are two of the New World Order coins, the World Economic Forum coins that are involved with the central bank digital currency. You have Math Wallet, Masari, Cryptocurrency AI. There are other companies that were invested into FTX, such as BlackRock. I mean, these people took a huge hit. As the information continues to come out about this company, I'd be surprised if crypto can survive this. And the reason for that is people are starting to realize exactly what these people from the World Economic Forum, what these politicians are using cryptos for. And they're doing some real nefarious crap out there. They're circumventing laws. They're circumventing our Constitution. Illegal campaign contributions. You know, money that the taxpayers are paying to help fund the war in Ukraine. That money is actually going into the exchange. And then instead of going where it's supposed to, 100%, a big portion of it's being rerouted back into the campaigns of politicians to help them gain control over this country. You know, people should be pissed off. I don't care what side of the political form you are. The fact that these people are pulling these types of stunts is very dangerous to our country. So this is Code Fusion. They were talking about just how big of a disaster FTX has caused. And when you listen to these people go into detail about what was really going on with FTX and even more information is coming out, these people wiped out the savings of thousands of people, including Tom Brady. That's crazy. Ready? Let's listen in, and then we'll chime in from time to time.
The fall of FTX triggered the collapse of more than 100 affiliated companies and wiped out countless savings.
So you had 10 roommates all having sex with each other over in the Bahamas are responsible for running these companies, Alameda Research as well as FTX and FTT. Over 100 companies that were affiliated with them were wiped out. And that would include any people who invested into any of those companies. Not to mention people who bought into the FTT or the FTX pretty much lost everything.
This story has strange but very real ties to American politics, the war in Ukraine, and Enron. Sam Bankman-Fried, with his moppy hair and unsuspecting look, is at the center of this story. He was born in 1992 in California to an academic and politically connected family. His mother, Barbara, is a lawyer and the co-founder of multiple Democratic fundraising organizations.
Multiple Democratic fundraising organizations. I keep telling people the demon rats are very, very corrupt. They have created a network of rich people and organizations that have the ability to keep them in power. And they're pretty close to trying to take over. I understand that they lost a little bit in the midterms, but it's not just the Democrats. We have rhino Republicans that are part of the establishment like Mitch McConnell, McCarthy, and the list goes on. We really need to do an entire clean sweep of politicians. We really do.
Sam's father, Joseph, was a law professor and would later help his son raise funds for his company. In 2014, Sam would graduate from MIT and would go on to work at the New York trading firm Jane Street Capital. There, he realized that he could make untold amounts of money trading cryptocurrency. He discovered a loophole where he could buy Bitcoin cheaper in America and sell it for a higher price in Japan. Sometimes he would shift up to $25 million a day.
So I guess nobody was paying attention to the fact that this kid was shifting $25 million a day. I'm assuming that this is from his personal account. So he buys the Bitcoin here in the United States and then sells it overseas for a higher rate, shifts the money back to the United States, and he's doing this daily, and nobody caught on to this? Well, I wonder how many other shady situations are happening out there with the crypto world.
In 2017, he would use the money from these trades to start his own company, Alameda Research. Alameda Research was made up mostly of Sam's MIT college friends and former work colleagues. This firm would later be a key player in the collapse. Sam supposedly believed in effective altruism, which he described as, quote, trying to figure out what practical things you can do with your life to have as much positive impact as you can on the world. He would make an impact on the world, all right, but it was by no means positive. Perhaps to appear more trustworthy, as Sam became rich, he would promote himself as the resourceful billionaire, choosing to drive an average Toyota instead of a typical supercar. But in reality, he would own a $30 million mansion in the Bahamas.
Look, this facade, this image of Sam is not his creation. I guarantee he was coached to try to look as less assuming as possible. Look, everybody, here I am driving a Toyota. Why is that? Because if you're going to push everybody into this Green New Deal and donate to these Green New Deal companies, then you better look like you're at least living the lifestyle. Meanwhile, in real world, the guy's living in a $30 million mansion with his 10 sexual partners.
Many social media influencers would later buy into Sam's humble brand image, and many promoted his companies.
Okay, the guy you see next to me is the most generous billionaire in the world, and I found him.
Hi, my name is Sam.
While trading at Jane Street, Sam would make a few friends. One of these was Caroline Ellison. She and Sam would begin dating. Back in 2017, Caroline wasn't really sure what to do for a career. Sam suggested working at his new company, Alameda Research. She didn't mean to get into trading, but Caroline thought that she might as well give it a go. And with that, someone with little to no experience would quickly be on her way to becoming the CEO of what would become a multi-billion-dollar operation.
So here you go. You got a person with no working experience, no qualifications, quickly becoming the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar organization. And that didn't cause any red flags to go up? Okay.
According to Fortune, Alameda Research, quote, was run by a gang of kids in the Bahamas, end quote. Many of the staff were Sam's ex-co-workers from the trading firm Jane Street, and others were from MIT. Sam had an inner circle of 10 people who were all housemates. They partied together and had been involved in romantic relations with each other. This group, of course, included the inexperienced CEO, Caroline, who would publicly praise amphetamine drugs on her Twitter.
Yeah. So, the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar corporation posts on Twitter praising the use of amphetamines. And it didn't draw any red flags? Come on, nothing like regular amphetamine use to make you appreciate how dumb a lot of normal, non-medicated human experiences. Yeah, and she's the one calling people dumb, and she's in this predicament. Let all this sink in, people. 2 years out of MIT, wasn't sure what the heck she was going to do with her life, somehow magically becomes the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar corporation while posting on Twitter that she uses amphetamines. And you have to ask yourself, where the hell is the watchdogs? Where the hell are the government watchdogs to spot this?
On her Tumblr, Caroline would state that the only acceptable polyamorous relationship should be in the form of a hierarchy. People should know where they fall within the ranking, and there should be vicious power struggles between the higher ranks. I have no comment. Despite issues behind the scenes, in 2019, Sam would start his next major project, FTX. FTX was a cryptocurrency derivatives exchange. For those not familiar, an exchange is basically a place to store and trade different cryptocurrencies and tokens, for a fee, of course. The firm would also offer discounts to clients who stored their money in a token called FTT. The FTT token was made by FTX, and it was also the token that blew up this entire mess. But we'll get to that shortly. The group of young misfits kept high-level management in the dark about what they were actually doing.
It's interesting that he's got a picture of the Shiba token over there on the side.
One former FTX employee told Forbes that the group was, quote, kind of a little clique, just a bunch of degenerate kids at the end of the day, end quote. So what did Alameda Research do? Well, essentially, they were a crypto hedge fund of sorts. They carried out trades, matched buyers and sellers, and would give investors a supposed return. An alleged 2019 promotional document raises some eyebrows. To get people in the door, Alameda promised 15% annualized fixed-rate returns with no downside. If you watch my episode on Luna, you would know that that's an impossibly good offer. As later reported by the Wall Street Journal, the firm would use customer deposits as loans for trading. Alameda Research would later
Customers' deposits. In other words, if you're on their exchange, they would take your tokens, and although you would see it on the platform, the tokens were actually taken out and used as loans.
to receive $10 billion in FTX customer funds. FTX, of course, was also owned by Sam. Gambling and investing with customer funds without their knowledge is a clear violation in traditional finance.
Actually, $10 billion in customer funds were transferred to Alameda. Now, both the Wall Street Journal and Reuters are reporting that billions of dollars was being used on Alameda. So billions of dollars in FTX customer money is being traded on the Alameda, through their trading house. And so that's especially concerning. I mean, you can't take customer funds without their consent. And what's especially bad about it, Brian, is that it's a clear violation of FTX's own guidelines.
Well, that's kind of weird because if you deposit your money in the bank, they tell you that legally the money is not yours. It belongs to the bank, and the bank can invest it any way they want to. You know, we're talking about fractional banking. So what's the difference between what they're doing with FTX and the FTT coin versus fractional banking? It's the same thing. So why should it be acceptable for a bank to be able to do this and not acceptable for a cryptocurrency? And she just explained why. So it should be illegal for both crypto companies as well as banks to do the same thing.
FTX and the Alameda offices are located in the Bahamas, just steps apart from each other in a co-working compound.
What do we know about the use of customer funds from here to over here? Because that is spectacularly illegal.
Oh, yeah, that doesn't happen on Wall Street. That is a clear violation of
Oh,
securities.
we're not in Wall Street. We're in the Bahamas, though.
No, it does happen on Wall Street.
We're in the Bahamas.
And to make things worse, some of the things that Caroline said in interviews weren't too encouraging.
Yeah, absolutely could pull it off without my math degree. Use very little math. Use a lot of elementary school math, being comfortable with risk is very important. We tend not to have things like stop losses. I think those aren't necessarily a great risk management tool. I'm trying to think of a good example of a
Keep in mind, she has a degree.
trade where I've lost a ton of money. Well, I don't know. I probably don't want to go into specifics too much with that.
That's the chick that does amphetamines.
Started FTX because he saw that most other crypto platforms only managed to cater to inexperienced retail investors. FTX, on the other hand, would offer more advanced financial products, like features and options trading for crypto, or tokenized stocks that tracked the value of real companies, like Tesla. People either really liked the idea or really trusted Sam because he managed to raise $2 billion from various hedge funds and investment banks, including BlackRock. How he managed to pull this off, I'm not entirely sure, but supposedly smart people thought of him as a genius.
No, he wasn't a genius. How did he pull this off? Because of his connections. You're going to see.
In fact, according to a blog post from venture capital giant Sequoia Capital, Sam was playing the video game League of Legends while on a call to discuss a $210 million investment. Upon seeing this, someone from the firm typed, quote, "I love this founder," in a chat box during the meeting. After the call, Sequoia gave Sam the $210 million. Little did they know, they would never see this money again. According to CoinDesk, current and former FTX.
So you got to think about that firm who lent him the $210 million. They couldn't have the ability to lend it without they themselves having investors into their company. So they lost out. The company does lose the $210 million, but it's the actual investors in that company that lose the money.
Alameda employees claimed that the operations were full of conflicts of interest, nepotism, and a lack of oversight. Here's a quote. "Gary, Nishad, and Sam control the code, the exchange's matching engine and funds. If they move them around or input their own numbers, I'm not sure who would notice." End quote. Nishad's girlfriend, Claire, who used to live with Sam, was hired and immediately promoted to head of HR. This meant that she could, and often did, fire anyone who didn't agree with Sam. Other employees claimed that Sam was the ringleader. Quote, "Sam wanted to take riskier decisions than what others would take. Sam ran everything. We trusted him and believed him." But regardless, for now, crypto was rising like no tomorrow, and business was going great for Sam.
So I'd encourage everybody to go out there and look at, let's call it the top 30 or so cryptocurrencies by market cap.
What's up?
I'm getting into crypto with FTX. You in?
In July 2021, it was reported that FTX was averaging $10 billion a day in trading volume across its 1 million users. By this stage, FTX had a UC Berkeley stadium named after them, an advertising partnership with the Golden State Warriors, and the Mercedes F1 team. They even had an NBA stadium in Miami named after them.
How could a person this inept, unassuming, with no experience pull this off? No normal person could do that. And I do understand he went to MIT, so it means he's got a brain, but no. There's no way this guy did this by himself. He was assisted by people who do these types of crimes, usually tied into our politicians, is what it is. He had help. There's no way in hell this guy and his group of friends did this by themselves. They had help on how to navigate through loopholes, on how to circumvent being caught, and if they did get caught, making sure that the people who caught them would just sweep it under the rug. Because there's no way in hell this guy could do this with this group of friends by themselves. It's impossible. This company was used by some very powerful people to funnel money so it would go unnoticed.
FTX was involved in every corner of the crypto space. As FTX grew, it became a household name. Promotional material included stars like Tom Brady, Stephen Curry, Naomi Osaka, and Larry David. And according to NBC, these stars received equity in Sam's company in return. In fact, it's reported that Tom Brady put his $650 million fortune into FTX.
Yeah. So you want to know why it is that Tom Brady came out of retirement? You want to know why it is that him and his wife ended up divorcing? You know, Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback ever, despite the fact that his team are cheaters. But cheating can only get you so far. It was a skill and talent of Tom Brady. as a quarterback. This guy's got records that you won't see ever smashed. It just seems impossible. It would be one hell of a quarterback to break these records. So Tom Brady comes out of retirement all of a sudden. You would think he doesn't need the money. He must really love football. Come to find out, well, no, he needs the money. And this was what caused the strain on the relationship between him and his wife. The fact that his entire fortune was just wiped out.
It's worth noting that this whole time, FTX had no board of directors, just Sam, another employee, and a lawyer. FTX even became involved geopolitically, being a partner of the World Economic Forum.
Oh, sure. Now think about this. We're talking about the World Economic Forum. We're talking about an organization with the brightest minds in the world that are involved in all aspects of human life. And you have that organization, the World Economic Forum, has partnered up with FTX and Sam Fried. You think they didn't do the due diligence? You think they didn't know what was going on? They absolutely knew this company was a front, and they were using it just like everybody else to illegally transfer funds and launder money as far as we could tell. There's no way in hell that this idiot and his idiot girlfriend, who became a CEO in 2 years of a multi-billion-dollar company, had the ability to reach these individuals and these organizations without help. They were helped. Absolutely.
They also built the infrastructure to supply funds to Ukraine, basically converting cryptocurrency donations into fiat currency for deposit at the National Bank of Ukraine. At this stage, Sam became knee-deep in politics.
These people in this picture right here alone should tell you who was involved and behind a lot of what's going on. You got two of the biggest criminals sitting in this picture right next to Fried.
Worth $26 billion. He donated $5 million to Joe Biden in 2020 alone, and $50 million to politicians ahead of the 2022 midterm elections. But there's a hidden detail to this story.
Oh, did he donate it, or is that what he was instructed to do?
A lesser-known player within FTX was Ryan Salame. He donated $23 million to Republican politicians to also gain political leverage.
So, the Democrats and the Republicans, and it's easy to figure out who's getting love. Because there was a panic during midterms over rhino Republicans versus the Trump-backed politicians, the ones they called crazy. They needed as many rhinos in there as possible to help cover up this disaster, because it's going to hit the crap is going to hit the fan. It's already starting, but it's really going to blow up. So you need people in there who all stick together. They're one huge crime family. Our Wall Street, our politicians, the banks, Hollywood, media are all tied into this crap together. And they know they have to stick together. So these midterms were more about getting rid of and preventing a lot of the Trump-backed politicians in favor of people who are connected to the rhino republics and the establishment, as well as the Democrats, to help cover this crap up as quickly as possible.
Left or right isn't the point here. The main issue is that this company was buying political influence and nobody was paying attention. On the 16th of November 2022, the United States New York Fed and 12 banks, including Citigroup and Wells Fargo, announced that they're testing digital US dollar crypto tokens. So after years of chatter, central bank digital currencies are looking to be a part of the next financial system for the United States. And FTX wanted to be at the center of it.
This case with Sam Fried is a perfect example of why you should not want central bank digital currency. If our politicians, banks, other organizations like the World Economic Forums, we're finding out that we're using this fake company to transfer money to help fund revolutions and uprisings, supposedly to fund Ukraine, but instead the money is going back into the pockets of politicians and powerful and influential people. That's what's happening. So why do we want a central bank digital currency? I don't think so. This is a perfect example of why. Look what our system is doing with FTX and FTT. They're complicit in this. There's proof of it coming up.
As Sam's empire grew, someone was watching closer than most. His name was Changpeng Zhao, aka CZ, and he was the CEO of Binance, FTX's biggest competitor. A single tweet from this man would start a chain reaction that would collapse Sam's empire. But we'll get to that. For Sam, everything would start to change in the second half of 2022. As inflation was beginning to rise, the US Federal Reserve lifted interest rates. Higher rates mean more expensive loans and a more cautious economy. For this reason, risk assets took a dive, and the premier among them was cryptocurrencies. As crypto firms began to blow up and go under, Sam became the man to bail them out. He could then buy the crypto off their books at record discounts. And this wasn't risky, because after all, Alameda Research had plenty of capital to spare. Or so everyone thought. Behind the scenes, Sam and his friends at Alameda were making huge losses from bad trades and these bailouts.
Remember Lehman Brothers? They did the same thing. They were too big to fail banks. And all these huge bankers were taking the funds of their clients, which are us, depositing money into the bank, and investing heavily into risky assets. They're doing the same thing again. The same thing. Instead of through the banks, they're doing it through cryptocurrencies. So think about what happened to the Lehman Brothers, how it almost crashed economies around the world until they were bailed out by taxpayers. Now move it from the banks into a crypto exchange and crypto tokens. It's the same crime. The same people involved, politicians, bankers, same thing.
Meanwhile, guys, as crypto lenders continue to collapse along with prices, one key figure we've talked about has emerged to help stabilize the ecosystem. That is Sam Bankman-Fried, founder and CEO of crypto exchange FTX.
Bankman-Fried's company provided a loan made up of crypto and cash. It was worth about $500 million. Voyager only drew on about $75 million worth of that total. Legal analysts, though, are telling me it's unlikely Alameda will recoup that equity and credit line. That money may be wiped out in Voyager's restructuring.
Seeking to prop up Alameda, Sam secretly transferred at least $4 billion worth of FTX consumer funds. Publicly, he was stating that all of these funds were being moved around within the FTX company. Quote, "Heads up, rotating a few FTX wallets today, mostly non-circulating. We do this periodically. Might have a few more coming. Won't have any effect." People tracking these wallets were suspicious, and they had a right to be. Sam was lying. This trade wasn't routine. It was the largest transfer of tokens on an exchange ever. And the recipient wallet wasn't one within FTX, but another wallet that was at Alameda. According to Reuters, Sam did not tell other FTX executives about the move to prop up Alameda. He was afraid that it could leak. Meanwhile, Caroline accidentally said on a call that FTX used customer money to help Alameda meet its liabilities.
Accidentally said on a call? Well, that's what amphetamines does to you. You're sitting there talking about business and you're such an idiot and you're on amphetamines, and he accidentally let it out that FTX had sent customer funds to Alameda. God works in mysterious ways.
27-year-old CEO just admitted to potentially criminal activity and could now be up for a lengthy jail sentence. So a key point to note is that these funds given to Alameda weren't in dollars, but $4 billion worth of FTX's own tokens, FTT. And herein lies one of the biggest issues with Sam's crypto empire. FTT was essentially a made-up token by Sam and his friends. Here's the problem. Say you had a great idea and were looking for an investment. Sam could say, here's $5 million, but it's not dollars, it's an FTT. Frankly, he was using money that didn't exist to buy things. As Corey Clipston, CEO of the investment platform Swan Bitcoin, puts it, quote, "It's fascinating to see that the majority of net equity in the Alameda business is actually FTX's own centrally controlled and printed out of thin air token." On November 2nd, Sam's worst fears were realized when behind-the-scenes information about Alameda finally leaked. A report by the news outlet CoinDesk detailed a very unhealthy balance sheet that allegedly showed that much of Alameda's $14.6 billion in assets were held in FTT, the coin made up by Sam and his friends. In essence, Sam created a coin, artificially attributed value to it, and then used it as collateral to finance his projects.
How did he get away with this? Who did the due diligence? In other words, I can create my own crypto exchange, create a crypto token that goes along with it, create a separate token over here, artificially pump it up, buy a lot of my own tokens, bring it over here, and artificially inflate my assets, making it look like I have billions of dollars in assets, when the truth is, I don't have any money. Nobody questioned that. So it's not just that we need more regulations. Unfortunately, what we need to do is it's the people who are the watchdogs that are the problems. All this should have been caught. Or was it?
It was very, very shady. For Sam, This was never a problem as long as the coin went up in value. But things were different now. The crypto market was sliding, and as this happened, much of Alameda's books became essentially illiquid. Questions about the real financial stability of FTX began swirling. It became the perfect opportunity for Sam's main rival, CZ, to step in. Sam and CZ's relationship started 6 months after the launch of FTX. CZ bought 20% of the exchange for about $100 million. Sam would later buy back this stock for $2 billion. This sum was paid to Binance, in part, by FTX's own token, FTT. Meanwhile, CZ was bitter because behind closed doors, Sam had been lobbying for the creation of a brokerage-like licensing system for decentralized finance. And who would lose out the most from this arrangement? Almost all other exchanges, especially Binance, FTX's main rival. And this is where things get a bit crazy, because interestingly, it's reported that the head of the SEC, Gary Gensler, and Caroline's dad, Glenn Ellison, both worked at MIT as professors. At MIT, Caroline's dad was the former boss of the head of the SEC. An alleged leaked email shows that the SEC was going to give FTX, quote, no action relief. Basically, this means, we know that you're breaking the rules, but we'll look the other way.
And how do we see them spinning this in the media? Oh, we need more regulations. No, how about the idiots that you put in charge to oversee these departments who are supposed to be enforcing the laws? How about you hold them accountable and throw them in jail for openly violating them? They know this company is a front. They know that these red flags were popping up and they swept it under the rug. And they assured them that there would be no consequences for it. I want you to let that sink in, because if you're an investor in the cryptos, FTT, FTX, any of the Alameda Research, any of them, any of the companies that invested into them, you should be beyond pissed. You have our own SEC coming out and saying they are aware of what's going on. They're not going to do anything about it. Why? Because the head of the SEC, who should be doing something about this, is friends with the father of a 27-year-old girl who is the CEO of Alameda Research, who's dating Sam Bankman-Fried, the creator of the FTX. Now, when I said there's no way in how these people could have pulled it off without being politically connected, without having help, now you know what I'm talking about. So how can you trust cryptocurrencies at all? How can you trust a central bank digital currency when the very organizations that we put into place to make sure this doesn't happen is partnering with the very companies that are breaking the law? You don't ever want a digital dollar. You don't want a cryptocurrency. Now, I'm not saying every one of them out there is corrupt, but the truth of the matter is, how could we ever trust what's going on with these companies when our own politicians are corrupt, complicit, and bed buddies with these criminals? This is where we are as a country. It isn't just our country, it's around the world. You have these very rich and powerful billionaires. They find loopholes in the law, or they create these fictitious NGOs and they transfer money from one location to another. They take taxpayer dollars to pay for a lot of their projects, and the taxpayers have no clue that this is going on. All this is going to come out, but there's going to be very little coverage. It's starting off big right now, but as it starts getting into the weeds and we start finding out that the SEC, politicians are involved, who's involved, who was funded, who benefited from it, it's going to get quiet real quick. They don't want the public to know about this. These people are ripping you off, using your money for projects I'm sure most people wouldn't agree with. Anyways, that's just the first part of this video. This is part one. I'll have to do a part two because I don't want the video to get too long. Anyways, you guys let me know what you think so far. Put it down in the comments and we'll get back at you, all right? That's it for now. I'll catch you later. I'm out.